Good morning friends, welcome to the weekly class of current affairs. Last week's class could not be conducted due to some unforeseen circumstances, but you might have got the notes of the last week, and now we presently take this week's current affairs, and in the doubt session you can ask me doubts from the previous week's notes if there are any doubts. Okay. So multiple, I would say, important events have taken place this week. We will be covering them. Okay. And now the first topic which we are going to cover is Incredible India. Now Incredible India, you might all have heard about this thing, this particular, I would say, word. Incredible India is basically a marketing campaign. It is not a scheme of the government. It is not a policy of the government. It is not a law, but it is just a campaign, a marketing campaign of the government of India, through which the government targets to boost tourism, to invite more and more tourists to India. Now, when COVID struck, when COVID-19 came, so one of the most impacted, I would say, sectors of the economy was tourism. Tourism suddenly came to a standstill because of lockdowns. We all know that is common sense also. Now, the government of India, in order to revive tourism back to its normal state, that was pre-COVID 2019, we have launched a new campaign, and that campaign's name is Incredible India, Visit India Year 2023. Now, this particular campaign, since it is Visit India Year, you can take it out that it is targeting the foreign tourists to come to India. We want to invite them to come to India and visit India. Now, if I have to talk about how many number of foreign tourists visited India before pandemic, let's say I take the data of 2019, it was 1.7 crore foreign tourists which visited India. 1.7 crore out of 1.7 crore, 1.1 crore were foreign nationals, and the remaining were people of Indian origin, means OCIs or NRIs they were. So this is the data, and through this campaign we want to go back to that levels. Now, post COVID 2020, 2021, when the lockdown was eased, domestic tourism or domestic tourists did contribute to this industry, but the foreign tourists did not contribute because foreign travel was still banned. But now things are picking up, and 2023 India is also having this G20 presidency, and we are expecting more and more foreign rivals in India. So we want this campaign to work for us and bring the pre-COVID levels, at least the 1.7 crore mark we have to reach in 2023, and from then onwards we have to move ahead. Okay. So this campaign is there, and G20 presidency is there with India in 2023, due to which we see many international visits to India, and pre-COVID was 1.7 crore and we want to achieve that. Now, if I talk about what is Incredible India, it is a marketing campaign, as already discussed, to promote tourism in India. It was launched in the year 2002. At that time also we wanted to promote tourism in India through this campaign. Now, objectives of this campaign, Incredible India, Visit India Year 2023, to promote India as the desirable destination. Now, for India to be a desirable destination, one of the major aspects is safety of tourists. Then only we will be desirable. That is obvious that protecting the monuments, conserving the, I would say, natural tourism spots and all, that should always be there. But this is a major concern, the safety of tourists, because India has infamously earned certain titles like rape capital of the world. USA, I think a few years ago, it issued a list in which it I would say named India as one of the dangerous countries to visit, and this list was, or this advisory was issued for the tourists who wanted to visit India, and due to this factor. And We have to take care of this, then only India will be desirable, will be a desirable destination. Then to build on existing Incredible India campaign, to attract more visitors to India, to reach out to travelers in a cost effective way. These are the basic objectives of this campaign. Now, India's tourism statistics, if I have to talk about the statistics, before going into this, I would like to highlight the types of tourism. Okay. What are the different types of tourism? And recreational tourism. Recreational tourism is that tourism which is generally used for recreation purposes. You go like we have Goa, we have hill stations and all. Those are generally used for recreational purposes. Then ecotourism. Ecotourism means that particular tourism which is ecologically sensitive, like we have national parks, we have wildlife sanctuaries, many tourists visit there, like we have Corbett and all. So people want to go live in the jungles, go for the safaris and all. That is ecotourism. Then third is religious or spiritual tourism. Now we have various religious places like Mathura, Vrindavan, Vaishno Devi, we have Ajmer ki Dargah, we have Golden Temple, we have many churches in Goa, we have I would say Bodh Gaya. So this is basically the rich culture of India which contributes to this religious and spiritual tourism. People do visit India for that, particularly the Buddhists. The fourth is medical tourism. Medical tourism is basically, people visit India to get themselves treated, because Indian treatment or India's medical treatment is considered to be cost effective and world class. Now if you visit any, I would say, big hospitals in Delhi, because I've seen Delhi, so you will see like big hospitals like Fortis or Apollo or any other big hospital in Delhi NCR region, you'll see a lot of foreign nationals over there. They've come there from their respective countries. From Afghanistan they come, from West Asia they come, from Africa they come, from East Asia they also come, because that particular treatment is not available in their respective countries, and they look towards other countries for getting themselves treated, and they find India as the best destination, and they come here, they get themselves treated, stay here for a month and a half or two, whatever the duration may be, and then go back to their respective countries. This is basically gaining a lot of prominence, medical tourism. Okay. So roughly you can another category is adventure tourism, in which adventure sports are there. They are practiced like bungee jumping or paragliding, parasailing, all these. So for that purpose, if you are visiting, then that is adventure tourism. Trekking is also an example here in adventure tourism. So these are the different types of tourism, and we want to promote all of these types of tourism from this campaign, the Incredible India campaign. Now when I talk about the statistics related to tourism, India has become synonymous with tourism in the last 75 years. Spirituality, transformation, culture and diversity are the hallmarks, or are basically the pulling factors. Tourism sector generated 16.91 lakh crore rupees in 2018, which is $240 billion, 9.2% of our GDP. It supported 42.67 million jobs, or 8.1% of the total employment. So both these factors, 9.2% of GDP, 8.1% of employment generation, roughly the figure is nearing 10%. So to memorize, you can say, or you can write that around 10% contribution of India's GDP comes from tourism, and 10% of the workforce is employed in the tourism or related sectors. So this is very substantial, and if tourism goes up, this figure goes up, this figure also goes up. This figure is very vital, that is employment generation. Out of 1.7 crore international inbound tourists in 2019, 1.1 crore were foreign tourists, means foreign nationals, and the rest were the NRIs and all. However, starting March 2020, international travel, it was stuck or it was impacted. So, we basically lost all the income from tourism sector. We lost many jobs related to the tourism sector, and one of the most impacted sectors due to COVID lockdowns. And since July 2020, Indian travel industry has been surviving primarily on domestic tourists. According to the India Tourism Statistics 2022, NRIs had increased by 52.6% in 2021 as compared to 2020. Now, we discussed a report, a news piece, I think way back in August or September, I don't exactly remember the month, when we talked about Indian diaspora. And when we were talking about the Indian diaspora, we analyzed this particular fact that NRIs visits to India have increased in the past year, and here it is that 52.6% increase in NRI visits in India. Increase in NRI visits in India means they will bring in dollars, they will go for tourism also here in India. So, that is something which is very I would say important for us. Now, steps taken to promote tourism in India, that is important. We have launched a number of initiatives and implemented, various strategies, multiple strategies targeting to promote tourism in the country. And we are improving the connectivity, air, rail and roads, enhancing tourism infrastructure and dependent services, streamlining branding and promotion. We are doing it. Incredible India campaign is an example here, showcasing the culture and heritage of the country. So, that is basically all these steps have been taken. The government is planning to release the new national tourism policy, and once it comes out, it will be important for you to read this, and I will be covering this, don't worry, here in the current affairs session as well. So, we will be doing that, but it has not been rolled out yet. But in the short term, we have this target that the country is estimated to achieve $150 billion GDP and 15 million foreign tourist arrivals by that period. 15 million means 1.5 crore, which was 1.1 crore. We have to achieve this target. In the medium term, that is by 2030, tourism related goals are USD $250 billion, $100 billion is increased over here, and 137 million jobs and 56 million foreign tourist arrivals. So, this is the target till 2030. And in the long term, what is our target? To revive India's tourism and targets to achieve $1 trillion by 2047, which marks 100 years of our independence. So, this is our targets roughly as of now, the short term, the medium term, the long term with respect to tourism. Is it important to memorize? Yes. If you memorize them, it will be important, it will be beneficial for you in writing the mains answers. Okay. So, this is some data which should be there in your head. Now, various tourist circuits, like we covered the Ambedkar circuit, one Buddhist circuit is there, then Himalayan circuit is there. It is basically done to promote, I would say, tourism in those places which have common significance. Like for example, Ambedkar circuit has all those places which had significance in the life of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Like Himalayan circuit is basically in the Himalayan region from I would say Jammu and Kashmir till Arunachal Pradesh and the northeastern states, and it will have connectivity among all the important locations in those regions, obviously to boost tourism. Then Ministry of Tourism has recently launched the Swadesh Darshan Scheme 2.0 with the objective to develop sustainable and responsible destinations following tourist and destination centric approach. The Prashad scheme, basically it is for tourist facilities around spiritual locations, Sri Sailam, Kamakhya, Parsuram Kund, that is in Arunachal Pradesh, Patna, Gaya and all are there under the Prasad scheme. E-tourist visa facility, basically easing the visa regime. Visa is basically a travel document which is required by the tourists or which is required by anyone if you have to visit the country. So, if you are visiting the country for tourism purposes, we will facilitate you with easy availability of tourist visa. And e-visa is there, means electronic visa. In the electronic mode, we will be issuing visa to you. According to the Ministry of Tourism, the financial assistance to the tourism sector, which is biggest sufferer due to COVID-19, continues to be extended up to 31st of March 2023. We have a special package for the tourism sector which we gave them and they were thriving on that. So, tourism all in all is very, very important because tourism brings in a lot of money from the outside. That is, new money will get circulated in the economy and this is how our economy will grow. Roughly 10% its contribution is there in the GDP, roughly 10% its contribution is there in the workforce employment. Definitely it is a very important sector and in the future it can be the game changer as well. It will definitely contribute India in becoming a developed country, and we have to take care of certain aspects like the safety and security of the tourists. The Swachh Bharat campaign has to be a success because through that we will be able to maintain cleanliness all over the country and particularly the tourist spots, and those will turn out to be major, I would say, tourist attractions. So, multiple, I would say, stakeholders are there for the tourism industry, the law and order setup, the Swachh Bharat mission campaign, the healthcare of India, the infrastructure development sector of India, because we need to connect these tourist places and all. Then we need to take care of crowd management also, because very recently in Vrindavan, I would say, 2 incidents of I would say stampedes were there, in which I would say 2-3 people died also. So, we need to take care of all these kind of, I would say, infrastructure concerns as well. So, now I've heard that the government of India has passed I would say plan for the Mathura Vrindavan region, and the temple and all over there is getting built in a very crowd friendly manner, I would say. We have to take care of all these concerns. Okay. Now, the next piece of news, very important, not important from prelims point of view, but yes, very important from the mains point of view, because in this social issues section, this particular topic is important, that is National Suicide Prevention Strategy. And suicides basically are basically an act of self-killing intentionally. Okay. So, that is suicide, and we have this National Suicide Prevention Strategy which is rolled out by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. They recently announced this strategy. And about suicides in India, if I have to talk about suicides in India, more than 1 lakh lives are lost every year to suicide, and it is the top killer in the 15 to 29 age group. This is something which is alarming. The young population which is getting ready for, I would say, the future of India, there the maximum number of suicides happen. Although in other age groups also suicides happen, but this particular age group is basically concerning. When I read this fact, obviously it was concerning for me also. The reasons which I could comprehend that this age group may why people do commit suicide, obviously societal pressure. You have to perform. If someone is not able to perform in the exams, suicide. If someone is not able to get a desirable job, suicide. Family problems, suicide, because they are not mentally so mature in this particular age, and they find solace, or they find this as the only way or the only solution, that they will not survive, it will be end to all the problems. But that is not actually the end to all the problems, because you leave behind your family members. For them the problems get aggravated. In the past 3 years, the suicide rate has increased from 10.2 to 11.3 per 1 lakh population. So this is also alarming, and COVID-19 pandemic was the lockdown basically was one of the major factors for increasing suicide rates, because many people lost their jobs, many people were not happy with the family setup they were living in. So this basically contributed to the increased number of suicides. The most common reason for suicide include family problems and illness, which account for 34% and 18% of all suicidal death rates, or all suicidal related deaths in India. Now about the strategy, what we'll do. Obviously, देखो, if you are committing suicide, so there is something wrong with the mental setup. Your mental health is not that great. So we need to focus on mental health, and that is why, especially during the pandemic and all, people started talking a lot about mental health. Even if I have to talk about myself, I got to know about this terminology for the very first time, mental health. कि इस ऐसा भी कुछ concept होता है, and then I read about it. I came to know that अच्छा, this was already existing in the society, but this terminology is new for me. This terminology was also there, but that was new for me. And due to the impact on mental health, suicide rates are increased. So we have to look it through this aspect as well. Now about the strategy, it is the first of its kind in the country, with a time-bound action plan and multi-sectoral collaborations to achieve reduction in suicide mortality by 10% by 2030. Means agar if 1 lakh suicides are happening in India, in the country per year, then we have to bring it down to 90,000 at least. The strategy broadly seeks to establish effective surveillance mechanisms for suicide within the next 3 years. Surveillance mechanism means if any suspicious activity is done by any family member, or if you find any, I would say, doubt in the actions of any family member, because it is not spontaneous, or it is not instantaneous that you think about suicide now and you do it the next moment. You keep on thinking, you keep on I would say it will impact you for a considerable amount of period, and then you will do that. So in that period, you have to be, the family members have to be vigilant enough that the person is not going through I would say desirable circumstances, or he or she is not in a good position, or is not in a good state of mind. So we have to see that in that aspect, and we have to report it, and their surveillance mechanisms come into picture. It aims to establish psychiatric outpatient departments in all the district, I would say, healthcare centers. The district mental health program in all districts within the next 5 years have to start. So we will be tackling this mental health as a separate department in the district hospitals. It also seeks to integrate mental well-being curriculum in all educational institutes, particularly colleges and all. So that will have a considerable impact on the mental well-being of an individual. It envisages developing guidelines for responsible media reporting of suicides. That is also very important, because in sociology, if anyone of you has sociology as an optional subject, you will see, or you will read about this theory of suicide. I think the thinker is Emile Durkheim, and he has given this theory on suicides, and he has said that one type of suicide is basically that when people are committing suicides all over the country, and people get to know about people committing suicides. So whoever is thinking of committing suicides, they get a push, and the media reporting is very important in that aspect. The media is reporting or covering suicides, and running it a lot, and I would say showcasing it on its channels and all. So people who are going, or who are having suicidal tendencies, they will get motivated that acha, if that person has done that, I can also do that. and that person might have got all, I would say, the solace, or he might have got all the answers to his problems. The stress is on developing community resilience and societal support. So we have to do that as well. While the strategy is in line with WHO's Southeast Asia Regional Strategy for Suicide Prevention, it says it will remain true to India's cultural and social milieu as well. So this is basically the policy to prevent suicides. Now next piece of news is related to the history, and obviously a question from this particular topic is expected, because this year we are celebrating 400th year of Lachit Barphukan. Okay. And who was Lachit Barphukan? Basically, he was, I would say, a very great warrior from the Ahom dynasty. Ahom dynasty was there in Assam. Now, the 3-day long celebration of the 400th birth anniversary of Ahom General Lachit Barphukan. Ahom basically stands for Assam. When I say that Assam, in Assam there was this Ahom dynasty which was established, and it was established in the 13th century. And when the Mughals came here, the Mughals wanted to take or capture that particular region, but they were unsuccessful. He was the general of the Ahom army, and he fought valiantly with the Britishers, not once, not twice, but many a times. And one of the important battles through which his bravery is known and he is celebrated is the Battle of Saraighat, which happened in 1671. But anyways, we talk about Lachit Barphukan. Okay. Lachit Barphukan was a commander and counselor in the Ahom kingdom. The Ahom kingdom resisted the invasion of the Mughal Empire several times and reigned in the present day Assam for over 600 years. They ruled there for over 600 years. It was founded in 1228, that is the 13th century I said, and in Assam's Brahmaputra valley. The first king of the Ahom kingdom was Chaolung Sukhafa, who crossed the Patkai mountain region to reach the Brahmaputra valley. In 1615, the Ahom dynasty engaged in its first significant conflict with the Mughals, that is 1615. The Mughals conquered the Ahom capital of Gargaon in 1662, but were defeated in later battles. That is in 1671, this was Battle of Saraighat was there. The Ahoms led by Lachit Barphukan successfully defeated the Mughals. Barphukan, mainly known for his leadership in this battle, is widely respected, and by 1682 the Mughal influence in the region, means in Assam, was completely eradicated. At times he is also referred to as Borphukan or Barphukan, one and the same thing it is. Okay. So a commander in the Ahom kingdom or the Ahom army who successfully, I would say, faced the Mughals and at many occasions and several times defeated the Mughal army, the mighty Mughals, and that is why he is celebrated a lot. And we are celebrating 400th year of Lachit Barphukan, so that is why he is important. Now the next piece of news, Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Now when I talk about Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, there is another post, Chief Economic Advisor. This is not similar or not same to this. These are two different bodies, don't get confused. Okay. The Chief Economic Advisor is someone who is different. He is basically the person in I would say as the Chief Economic Advisor, and EAC PM means Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister is basically a council which is headed by noted economist, and this chief economic advisor is the head of IES. IES stands for Indian Economic Services. But we are discussing this Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Okay. So, what is EAC? Why was this EAC in news? First we will discuss this, but we need to take note of this fact that both of these are separate. Okay. You don't consider that the chief economic advisor is basically the head of EAC to the PM. It is not true. The chairman of EAC to the PM is different and this post is different. Okay. Now, when I talk about EAC to the PM, Economic Advisory Council to the PM, we have to understand that why this was in news. Now, actually there are basically many indexes and reports which we have to, I would say, memorize, which we have to read as UPSC aspirants, and it is important for us as well. So, this EAC to the PM has said that there are 3 reports, these are international reports or these are international indexes which have not been, taken, the methodology of those indexes is questionable, and obviously India has not performed well on those indexes, and that is why their methodology is being questioned by India, and the Economic Advisory Council has said that there are 3 indexes which are measured globally, and those methodology used to measure those indexes is not right, it is questionable in nature. Which 3 indexes are there? We will see abhi. Okay. And what is the problem with the methodology? We will see, and we will also look into that the details of EAC to the PM, what is the EAC to the PM, and then we will consider this topic as complete. The Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister has recently issued a working paper that says that the decline in India's ranking on a number of global opinion based indices or indexes are due to serious problems with the methodology used in these perception based indices. Okay. So, we have to take care, or this particular piece of news is there because of this. Now, there will be a task for you guys also. You have to read the details about those 3 indices which the PM EAC is questioning. These 3 indices are Freedom in the World Index first, VDEM indices second, and EIU Democracy Index third. The methodology of these 3 indices or these 3 indexes is questioned by the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. They said that the methodology used is incorrect, due to which India's ranking is low. Okay. The paper says that these indices are primarily based on opinions of a tiny group of unknown experts. We don't know from where those inputs are being taken, and these are definitely smaller groups of people. It also says the questions that are used are subjective and are worded in a way that is impossible to answer objectively. Okay. So, those are subjective in nature, so anyone can answer anything. The working paper also said that certain questions used by these indices are not an appropriate measure of democracy across all countries. And World Bank actually recognizes these 3 indices. And World Bank issues this report, the World Governance Report, based on the result of these 3 indices. Obviously, if India is not performing well in these indices, the World Governance Report, definitely in that also India will not perform well. So, that is a major problem, and the methodology is questioned. How the methodology is questioned? First of all, the questions are subjective in nature, so anyone can answer anything, and the interpretation of those answers is also subjective by the authorities who are interpreting them. Then second, then opinion is taken from a tiny group, it is not taken from a larger group, and these are people, these are unknown experts, nobody knows them who is giving those inputs. Okay, so basically transparency is not there. That is why it is a problem for India. Now about PMEAC, if I have to talk about, the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council is a non-constitutional, non-permanent and independent body constituted to give economic advice to the government of India, specifically the Prime Minister. Now if the government or the Prime Minister wants any economic advice, then it can go to this PMEAC. The council was set up with a view to provide a sounding board for inculcating awareness in government on the different point of view on key economic issues. It is common for the council to be reconstituted time and again, but timeline has not been fixed, or it is not uniform. The timeline is not uniform. Basically in 2017, September 2017, with a term of 2 years, a new council was set up. It was again reconstituted in 2019, and the present Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council is headed by Vivek Debroy. He is member of Niti Aayog, I think, and he is the head of this Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. He is the chairperson of this council, and there is a permanent member, Sanjeev Sanyal. He is also he was the principal economic advisor to the Prime Minister from 2017 to 2022, but now he is the member of Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. There are other members also. If you wish to note down the names of the members, you can note down the name of the members in your books, in your notebook. Dr. Vivek Debroy, Chairman. Sanjeev Sanyal, member. Rakesh Mohan, part-time member. Dr. Sajid Chinoy, part-time member. Dr. Neelkant Mishra, part-time member. Shri Nilesh Shah, again part-time member. T. Ram Mohan, part-time member, and Dr. Poonam Gupta, part-time member. Now, the question is, will this Economic Advisory Council give advice to the Prime Minister when the Prime Minister asks them, or suo motu also it can give advice to the Prime Minister? Both ways. It can suo motu give advice to the Prime Minister without the Prime Minister asking for advice, and whenever the Prime Minister asks for advice, then they have to give advice to the Prime Minister. Okay. The composition, chaired by a chairperson, Vivek Debroy, and consists of eminent economists as members. Members can be permanent plus part-time. Permanent member Sanjeev Sanyal and others are part-time. After the latest reconstitution, it now has a chairperson, member secretary, and 2 part-time members. Basically now it has been extended to more part-time members. It is supported in its function by a team of officials and administrators. There is no fixed definition on the exact number of members, and that is why it has been increased presently. And the staff of PMEAC. For administrative, logistic, planning and budgeting purposes, Niti Aayog is the nodal agency for PMEAC. Earlier it was Planning Commission, now it is Niti Aayog. In fact, if you look for PMEAC, it basically is headquartered in the Niti Bhavan. Niti Bhavan is where Niti Aayog is there. Okay. So this is basically the Economic Advisory Commission to the Prime Minister. When I talk about the next, I would say piece of news that is very important from prelims point of view as well as mains point of view, because we are celebrating 10 years of the POCSO Act this year. The POCSO Act basically is prevention of sexual offences in the children, and children is basically 18 years of age. The Act has completed 10 years into force formulation. It was the first comprehensive law in India dealing specifically with sexual abuse of children, enacted in 2012, and is administered by Ministry of Women and Child Development. The objective of the Act was to protect children aged less than 18. Here, the definition of children is less than 18 years. From sexual assault, sexual harassment, pornography offences and all, and establishment of special courts for trial of such offences and related matters and incidents. So, this basically Act deals with that. Let us see what are the details, what are the amendments in this particular Act that have taken place. First of all, we cover the features of the Act. It is a gender neutral law. Sexual offence does not only mean that females are protected, female child is protected, even sexual offence can happen against a male child. So, it protects the male child as well. So, that is why we are calling it a gender neutral law. The POCSO Act establishes a gender neutral tone for the legal framework available to child sexual abuse victims by defining child as any person under the age of 18. No time limit for reporting abuse means if a sexual offence had been committed a few years back, then also in the present year the child is entitled to report that. That is, no time limit for reporting the abuse. A victim can report offence at any time, even a number of years after the abuse has been committed. Mandatory reporting. The Act also makes it the legal duty of a person who knows that a sexual offence has been committed, and if that person does not file a complaint, then that person will be jailed. That person will be penalized. Okay. It is the legal duty of a person aware of the offence to report the sexual abuse. In case he fails to do so, the person can be punished with 6 months imprisonment or a fine. Safeguards to the victims. Basically, the child is the victim over here, and we have made sure that the child is safeguarded from the I would say harassers or the people who have done that harassment, and we have to make this justice system child friendly. And how we are doing it child friendly? Basically, the child victim should not see the accused at the time of testifying and the trial to be held in camera. Means it is not important for, or it is not necessary for the child to be there physically present and face the victim or face the, I would say, basically accused who have committed that crime. Further, it specifically provided that evidence of a child shall be recorded within a period of 30 days. And it also required the special court complete the trial as far as possible within a period of 1 year. Now, this as far as possible is questionable over here, because many courts in India have not completed trials within 1 year period. Only a few states, we will see अभी कौन से states ने किया, they have not completed within 1 year, but yes, this is a provision over there. The amendment 2019, I think the amendment was done. The first amendment 2019, punishments for specific offences in order to deter abusers and ensure a dignified childhood. We enhanced the punishment for certain offences like sexual penetration or penetrative sexual assault. Death penalty we did for that, and it also provides for levy of fines and imprisonment up to 20 years. We increased the imprisonment time, that is a substantial time. The new definition of child pornography was introduced. It reads, any visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct involving a child, which include photographs, videos, digital or computer generated images indistinguishable from an actual child, and an image created, adapted or modified but appear to be depicted as a child. That is the definition of child pornography in this Act. Roadblocks in implementation. Because see, laws in India are made, but their implementation is questionable. So these are some of the roadblocks that such kind of abuse is on the rise, and we covered I think one such operation which was conducted by the CBI on the input given by Interpol for child pornography and all. I think last month we covered, and these kind of operations are, or these kind of, I would say, events or criminal activities are on the rise. Then we have limited POCSO courts. They have not been designated in all the districts. As of 2022, only 400 POCSO courts have been set up in 28 states as part of the government's fast track courts scheme. There is also lack of special public prosecutors appointed specifically to handle POCSO cases. See, the judiciary is already struggling. Lot of, I would say, pending cases are there, and on top of that, this requirement that special courts should be constituted. So let's suppose we take out judges from the normal district courts and we install them in POCSO courts, or we put them in POCSO courts. Their number of cases are less, so they'll be sitting idle. In fact, they would have been working there and solving cases if they would have not done that. So this is the argument given by judiciary. So the I would say solution lies in increasing employment and or increasing number of, I would say, recruitments by the government or by the judiciary to install judges here in the POCSO courts. Okay. Then excessive delays, the slow pace of designation of special courts, delay in investigation and filing charge sheets, non-appointment of support persons for child victims in most cases leads to tardy implementation of the act. Uttar Pradesh has the highest pendency with more than 3/4, that is 77.77% of the total POCSO cases filed between November 2012 and February 2021, and they are pending. 77% cases which have been filed in this time period are still pending, and you remember the time frame which was set, that was 1 year if possible. So that is not possible in the case of Uttar Pradesh. No, poor disposal rate, Uttar Pradesh as an example we have already seen. On an average, it takes 509.7 days for a POCSO case to be disposed. Obviously, it is more than 1 year. Okay. Whereas it has been stipulated under the act that such cases need to be disposed within a year. Chandigarh and West Bengal, these two are the only states or union territory, Chandigarh is a UT, where the average time taken for the conviction is within 1 year. High acquittal rate means those persons on which the victim blames that this person has sexually abused me, they get acquitted, they get set free. 44% of trials under POCSO end in acquittals, while only 14.03% end in convictions. The rest are pending, so they are there. This goes contrary to the data published by National Crime Records Bureau in 2021, wherein 96% of the cases filed under POCSO Act, the accused was a person known to the child victim. Okay. And this basically can be the reason for high acquittal rate, because that person is known to the child. Absence of support persons, the Supreme Court has noted that in 96% of the cases, a support person was not provided to the victim. A support person can be a medical practitioner who will be guiding the child on, I would say, mental well-being, mental health, because the child is in the trauma. Child does not understand basically what has been done with him or her. So to counsel the child is basically that particular person's responsibility is there, and we have lack of that person also. Then lack of awareness, the general knowledge of POCSO Act remains severely inadequate in India, and that is why people are not filing cases under it. Then next is new challenges. Incidents of child abuse have also risen exponentially since the COVID-19 pandemic and with the emergence of new forms of cybercrime. These kind of, I would say, challenges have more and more increased. So COVID-19 pandemic, everyone was locked down, so high incidences of child abuse happened. Cybercrime, almost everyone is on the in the cyberspace, using mobile phones, using computers and all. So the criminals are also here in this space, so they misuse this particular space, and I would say the child or the children are at the receiving end. Okay. Child pornography and all is gaining prominence all over the world, and India is no, I would say, exception here in this case. And we just discussed that Operation Megh Chakra, I think it was, by CBI officials, which was carried out on the information received by Interpol, and this Operation Megh Chakra was for tackling those people who were involved in child pornography and all. Okay. So those people, if they were caught in Operation Megh Chakra, they would be booked under the POCSO Act. Now next, very important topic, and it is basically related to the fertilizer subsidy. When I talk about the fertilizer subsidy, it is one such sector in which the government's, I would say, subsidy bill is the maximum. Subsidy bill, basically, to understand what subsidy is, basically it is a support given by the government. Now let's suppose the fertilizers are available at, let's suppose, 600 rupees kg. Okay. But the poor farmers are not able to afford that. So what the government will do, okay, farmers, you pay 200 rupees kg, 400 rupees kg I am paying on your behalf. Jayega 600 ही, but 400 the government is paying, 200 the farmer is paying. So that 400 is the subsidy, and the government is not printing any money for meeting that or for giving that subsidy. The government is giving it from its own earnings. And developing countries and developed countries, the subsidy burden on the governments are high, and similarly in India, subsidy burden on the government is high. One such factor is fertilizer subsidy. In India, around 60% of the workforce around is involved in agricultural and related sectors, and obviously they are poor, and agriculture needs certain inputs. Fertilizer is one such input. Fertilizer is basically an agricultural input which is basically applied on the farms while sowing, and that fertilizer basically is aimed at improving productivity. Now when green revolution happened in India, 1960s it started. So we started using fertilizers, and when we used fertilizers, by fertilizers we give various nutrients to the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur. These nutrients are given to the plants, and these nutrients helps the plants to grow faster and to grow in quantity, and these are there in the fertilizers, NPKs. And that is why the job of fertilizers is, it is an agriculture input which enhances the productivity, because these nutrients are given to the I would say plants, which enhances, I would say, productivity. Fertilizers can be of two types. First is organic, second is synthetic or chemical based. The organic fertilizers like green manure and all are there. Cow dung is an example of organic fertilizers. The potential of organic fertilizers is way below the potential of synthetic or chemical fertilizers. Means organic fertilizers do contribute in increasing the productivity, but the productivity does not improve to that level as it increases with the application of chemical or synthetic fertilizers. So there's this difference, and excessive use of fertilizers is also problematic. Is also problematic for the humans, because we consume those agricultural crops which have been grown by using those chemical fertilizers, and those chemical fertilizers have carcinogenic elements in them. Carcinogenic means those have the potential to cause cancer, and that is why the number of cancer patients are maximum in Punjab and Haryana region. There is a special train which is called as the cancer special train, which runs over there and takes patients from one place to the other where the cancer specialist hospital is there. So due to the excessive use of these fertilizers and all in that region, number of cancer patients have increased. Then it also, the excessive use of fertilizers also have an impact on the marine, I would say, biodiversity, the marine ecology, because when these fertilizers are applied, these are washed also, because we apply water also over there, and these are washed and they enter some river or they enter some pond where they cause algal blooms. These fertilizers, they enter a pond, they cause algal blooms, means algae grows in abundance over there, and algae basically if it grows in abundance over there, then that also ecologically is harmful, because that algae is basically not I would say in sync with the marine biodiversity over there. A certain kind of algae, I think, consumes oxygen, which leaves less oxygen for the marine or the aquatic animals. These kind of concepts you will study in ecology and environment, and these are the side effects of excessive use of fertilizers. Fertilizers are cheap because government is giving subsidy on them. The government is bound to give subsidy on them because the farmers in India cannot afford that high input costs. So this is this dilemma. And if I see the subsidy bill of the government of India, one major component in the subsidy bill is the fertilizer subsidy. The farmers should opt for rational use of fertilizers. Jitna zarurat hai, use that much only. If it is cheap for you, do not go for excessive usage, because your greed that if I use it excessively, more productivity will be there and more income will be there. Sasta mil raha hai, koi baat nahi, use it. This mindset should not be there. Okay. So this is basically the groundwork done for fertilizer. What are fertilizers? What is fertilizer subsidy? And now we begin this topic, that how fertilizer subsidy is there. Now we will see that. The subsidy. The farmers buy fertilizers at MRPs, maximum retail price, below their normal supply and demand based market rates, and or what it costs to produce, import them. For example, the MRP of neem coated urea, for instance, is fixed by the government at rupees 5922.22 per ton. Okay. The government fixes it. Okay. Whereas the price payable to domestic manufacturers and importers comes around to be 23,000 per ton. The actual price is this 23,000 per ton, but the MRP, the government has fixed it 5922 per ton. The difference 23,000 minus 5,922 is the subsidy which the government bears, and huge amount, I would say. Okay. The difference, which varies according to the plant wise production and cost and import price, is footed by the center as subsidy, means this difference is basically footed by the center as subsidy. The MRP of non-urea fertilizers are decontrolled or fixed by the government company or fixed by the companies. However, the center pays a flat per ton subsidy on these nutrients to ensure reasonable prices. Now this was basically for urea. Okay. but the non-urea fertilizers are also there, and for them the government does not fix the MRP like the government is doing for urea. The government does not fix the MRP for non-urea fertilizers. That is largely market driven, but per ton subsidy, a flat per ton subsidy is given to the farmers on non-urea fertilizers also. Okay. So this is the non-urea fertilizers also get subsidies, the urea fertilizers get subsidies. The urea fertilizers get subsidies in the way that the government is marking the MRP. The difference is huge. The actual MRP is 23,000 per ton, but the government is marking it as 5922 per ton, and the remaining amount is being met by the government to the fertilizer companies. These are urea fertilizers. The non-urea fertilizers, the companies are issuing the fertilizers on its own MRPs. Those MRPs are largely market driven, and the government has told the farmers that you buy them and we will give you flat this much subsidy on per kg or per ton of purchase. Okay. Here also we are helping you, but there we cannot mark the MRP like we are doing it in urea fertilizers. How is the subsidy paid? The subsidy goes to the fertilizer companies, although its ultimate beneficiary is the farmer who pays MRPs less than the market determined rates. This is for urea fertilizers. Under the DBT system, subsidy payment to the companies would happen only after actual sales to farmers by retailers. When actual sales of farmer to the retailer happens, then only the subsidy is paid. Each retailer now has a point of sale machine linked to the Department of Fertilizers e-Urvarak DBT portal. When the retailer is having this, when any person comes to take fertilizer from the retailer, then accordingly the retailer uploads it in this portal, and then that subsidy is paid to the companies. Anybody buying subsidized fertilizers is required to furnish his/her Aadhaar card or UID and Kisan credit card number. Only upon the sale getting registered on the e-Urvarak platform can a company claim the subsidy. So e-Urvarak portal is important. Government schemes for fertilizers. There are various government schemes for fertilizers are there. The first is New Investment Policy 2012, and it was rolled out with this main objective to facilitate fresh investment to make India self-reliant and reduce import dependency in urea sector. We import a lot of urea. Neem coated urea. Basically we did this neem coating over the urea. It was more ecologically friendly. Okay. Urea that is coated with neem tree seed oil is called as neem coated urea. The Department of Fertilizers has made it mandatory for all the domestic producers to produce 100% urea as neem coated urea because it is ecologically beneficial. The benefits of NCU include slow down the process of nitrification of urea, enhance the yield, decrease urea requirement, hence save money. So this is beneficial in all sense. New Urea Policy 2015 policy seeks to increase indigenous urea production because we are importing a lot, so we want to increase it. Promote energy efficiency in urea production, reduce subsidy burden on the central government. Then nutrient based subsidy scheme. Nutrients, as I told you, there are N, P, K, S, nitrogen, phosphate, potash and sulfur. So nutrient based subsidy means the government wants to ensure that the farmers are going for all types of fertilizers which have all these, I would say, nutrients. If the government is giving more subsidies on I would say urea contains nitrogen and all. So it does not mean that the farmer should go for this only and ignore these two or these three. It should be going for all, and the government has put a cap that nitrogen based fertilizers you can take this much, potash based fertilizers you can take this much, until then we are giving subsidy. So that was nutrient based subsidy scheme which ensures, I would say, a balance in the nutrients which are being supplied to the crops over there. Okay. Now we take a break, okay, and we will be going forward with the remaining pieces of news.